The families of 9/11 victims are expressing outrage over the White House threat to veto a bill that would allow them to sue Saudi Arabia. That's as President Barack Obama meets in Saudi Arabia with King Salman. Administration officials saying they cleared the air amid tensions between the longtime allies. Joining me now, Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary. The Obama administration argues that this bill would allow other countries to retaliate against Americans with their own legislation. Is that a valid argument?
Well, I think there's a lot to be concerned about because there is part validity to it. For example, the United States military, we operate in Syria, we operate in Iraq, we operate in a number of nations, we operated in Libya. If our military kills civilians, will we now lose our immunity? Will our pilots, will our military now have to go to courts in other lands and be sued? This opens up a world that has previously been closed. Immunity has been an agreement that has benefited the United States around the world. If we start to unravel it now, here, we could be at risk if other nations misinterpret it to target us.
Ari, Saudi officials have long denied any involvement in the 9/11 plot, and the 9/11 Commission has found no evidence that the Saudi government or senior Saudi officials individually funded the plot. Do you believe that they played a role, and at what level?
Well, I would very much like to see the 28-page classified Senate report. I have no problem if that gets made public. I'd like to know what they know. But based on what the 9/11 Commission showed and what I knew from the Bush administration, the Saudi government actually was tremendously helpful to us in fighting terror. There was no evidence that the Saudi government played any role in September 11th. Now, below the levels, the highest levels of the Saudi government, the Saudis do play a two-faced game. They wink and look the other way as many of their princes and underlings and other people fund Wahhabist institutions and pay money to make terrorism go away inside their own borders. Yeah. Pakistan and Saudi are two of the nations that have the most two-faced approaches. But at the top levels of the government, the king, the foreign minister, the minister of intelligence, the top people in the military, they were powerfully pro-American and have been for a long time.
Let's talk more about the 28-page report that you're talking about. On Monday, the President Obama and the White House said it's almost finished with the review of the confidential 28-page section of the congressional report and could soon determine whether it's going to be declassified. Families of 9/11 victims would like to see these 28 pages be released. Do you think they should be?
Absolutely. I think people have a right to know what happened. And if there's something that they have that the 9/11 Commission did not have, we all have a right to know.
Why are they classified
then? But I'd be surprised to have it. I suspect because of sources and methods, that's probably the best reason why, because they have something that indicates how we got something and they don't want that known.
The president landed in Saudi Arabia today where he will work to ease tensions between Washington and Riyadh. What do you think? What do you make of his visit?
Well, I think the United States, sadly, has missed a tremendous opportunity in the Middle East. There's been a historic strategic realignment that puts Israel, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan on one side, and Iran, Qatar, and a couple other nations on another side. And we have taken the side, basically, of Iran against Saudi Arabia. That baffles me. And so the United States has bad relations with Saudi Arabia right now, basically because of our acquiescence to Iran and are missing the boat on a big strategic realignment.
Ari Fleischer, thanks.
Thank you, Don.
I want to discuss this now with Jim Riches, a former deputy chief of the New York Fire Department. His son lost his life on 9/11. Thank you so much for being with us, and I'm so sorry for your loss. Your son was lost his life in the World Trade Center, right? It was a firefighter.
Yes, he was a fireman.
His name is
died
Jimmy.
Jimmy, he died in North Tower.
I want to get your reaction to this because this bill would allow, families, victims' families, to sue the Saudis. You want to see this passed, but even the bill's co-sponsor, Lindsey Graham, has put a hold on the bill over concerns that the new changes could expose the U.S. to legal attacks. What's your reaction to that?
I'm sitting here listening to him from the Bush administration. They're the same people told us about the weapons of mass destruction. They told us the ground zero, the air was fine. Everybody got sick. I was in a coma for 16 days. They have some nerve. Yeah. We should be allowed. All we're doing is looking for a right to sue. Not, they can go to court and we'll have, what they're doing now is they have sovereign immunity. So they give a blanket statement. This JASTA law will wipe out the sovereign immunity and we'll be able to go to court and sue them if they abetted, aided, financed, or funded the terrorists.
What do you say to Lindsey Graham, though? Who was the co-sponsor of the bill who's saying this could open the U.S. up to legal attacks?
I say, I don't know what happened with him. He sponsored the bill, and now all of a sudden, maybe Saudi Arabia has seven firms that lobby down in Washington. Mm-hmm. Maybe he got a piece of money or something. But I think the families deserve the right. This was not a routine attack. It's not a routine thing. This is a mass murder of people. We need this legislation to prevent this from happening again, to punish the people that fund these attacks. And we have nothing right now. And if we continue like that, we'll never have nothing.
You say it's a slap in the face to the families. And do you think that the White House, and now Lindsey Graham, do you think they're looking at a bigger picture, or something else is at play
I
here?
think they're looking at something else between Saudi Arabia and them. They ought to think of the American families who lost their loved ones that day. 3,000 people died. I picked up the parts down there. They're worried about the Saudi feelings and how they're going to be they're probably threatening them with the $750 billion. Let them do what they want. We have to stop the terrorists with the funding and everything else. And right now we're not doing it. And President Obama was going to reject the bill. He didn't even read the 28 pages in the classified report. And he's saying that we're going to get routine lawsuits. This 9/11 was not routine. It was a major, major attack. We need legislation to prevent countries from doing this. Otherwise, Paris is going to happen again, San Bernardino, and 9/11s are going to happen again and again unless we hold these people accountable.
As Ari Fleischer said, that the administration is worried that this could put Americans overseas in jeopardy. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that. I think that this is legislation that's strictly for terrorist attacks. We're not going to be supporting terrorist attacks, and our people aren't going to support them. And if you do deserve to be sued and held accountable. And that's what it's about, and not about they're worried about routine lawsuits. There's nothing routine about 9/11. And for them to say that, it's ridiculous.
You said that you believe the president didn't even read the 28-page classified report, but you want that report to be released. Why is that so important to you?
It's so important to us because we want to have the right to sue, and we also want to bring this information into the court. If you look at those 28 pages, some of the people that have read it, there's been out in San Diego embassies, money exchange hands between handlers and the 9/11 hijackers from the Saudi embassy out there. They treated these people with kid gloves. The Bush administration flew 100 people right after 9/11 of the bin Laden family. That was the only plane allowed up back to Saudi Arabia, while we, the firemen, were down there digging our loved ones, looking for our loved ones. Let's not worry about their feelings. Let's worry about the country, prevent these attacks from happening. And if we do this with this bill, we'll prevent these countries. They'll be held accountable because nobody's been held accountable for 9/11, from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed down in Guantanamo if they get the 28 pages, and all we're doing is being able to go into court. They're not guilty. They'll be able to defend themselves, and if they didn't do it, and these pages show that they didn't, then they'll be off the hook, so they don't have nothing to worry about. So I don't know why they're threatening us.
If you're allowed to sue, what does this do for you? What will you sue for? What will the family sue for? What do you want?
We're not even thinking about money or anything like that. We want accountability. We want it to be known that Saudi Arabia, if you look at these pages, they said it doesn't affect national security, but that's the reason they held them. Why did they hold them up? Why was it? Because Bush and them had oil ties with the king of Saudi Arabia? We have to ask these questions. Why did they protect them? They had numerous things in these 28 pages where local police departments had information and the FBI squashed it. They said, no, it's the Saudis, leave them alone. This is all that's in those 28 pages. Let's release them. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it, but we're never even going to get to know the history if they hide it from us.
Have you been paying attention to the president's trip now, and what do you think of it?
I just saw that he got a cool reception at the airport, and I think you ought to put them right in their place and say, listen, if you're not guilty, you have nothing to worry about, and that's that the families deserve this. 3,000 families, heartbroken. We read, our hearts pour out every day. My son's never going to walk back in the door. We deserve to know what happened. We deserve to see the 28 pages, and JASTA would be a good law to prevent future attacks in the future like Paris, San Bernardino, 9/11. And we don't want them happening here on American soil, and that's what they're going to protect.
Jim Riches, thank you again, and we're sorry for your loss. I really appreciate you coming in. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be right back.